So we're now on to our next talk. We've got Duncan Blackett from Digital Turbine on a talk which is looking for alternatives, why developers lean into alternative distribution channels to reach their game's full potential. So if Duncan, we can start. We're on time.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining this morning, guys. So looking for alternatives, why alternative distribution is the key to reaching your game's full potential. Apologies, it's a bit of a boring title. What it should actually read is the app economy is broken, but there are solutions out there, growing solutions as well. So hopefully we've got a room packed full of UA marketers. Guys, do you work in a UA distribution here? Good. Quick show of hands. Fantastic. We've got at least one person, so this is great. Let me just pick up the clicker. I think that would probably help, wouldn't it? So is it this one or that one? That ought to do. My name's Duncan. I'm the head of sales for Digital Turbine for the EMEA region, but don't worry, I'm not going to be selling you anything today. This presentation should probably take around about 15 minutes, and of course there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions at the end. I always like to frame these discussions with some key themes. And there are three of those. The first one is that the macro is down. Advertising is down by around about 30% year on year. But the good news is that advertising in a recessionary environment is always the first thing to come back, and there will be lots of opportunities out there. By the end of 2023, the games market globally is going to be worth $290 billion. So what that suggests is that there's plenty of opportunity. Theme number two, the app economy is evolving. A, user behavior is changing. B, first-party data is going to be really important to all campaigns moving forward. And C, new app install methods are emerging. But ultimately, there's a new paradigm here in the world of app distribution. And that paradigm is alternative distribution, otherwise known as direct-to-device. So look, we're all here. It's very evident what's happening in the marketplace. It's never been harder to make money from your users. 2022 compared to 2021, ROAS is down by over a third, and that's significant. And why is that? Two main things. User behavior is changing. Players are less sticky. They're not in games for long enough. But also, because of the macro, because of the challenges out there, people are spending less money in games. UA marketers are finding that they're being squeezed, and of course, that materially affects bottom lines. So you need to be on top of all the changes that are taking place in the industry to make sure you're maximizing your game's full potential. But it's never easy, is it? Everywhere you turn, you're confronted with a new issue. And one of the biggest issues right now in the marketplace is clearly the depreciation of third-party IDs. And this creates lots of headaches for UA marketers because it's harder and harder to find the right channels to use and to be as effective with your UA campaigns as they previously once were. To call out a few of the marquee events that happened in the deterioration of third-party app identifiers, it started with GDPR, but then had CCPA, Google's Privacy Sandbox Initiative, ATT. Everywhere we turn, we're confronted with new issues. For iOS, Scan 4 is helping to address some of these issues, but it's still in progress. We're waiting for ad networks and we're waiting for MMPs to catch up. Android is going to get tougher. GIDs, they're going away, but there is a solution for you. But what we have to start doing is getting clever and ultimately thinking outside the box, as if this was pre-prepared. But we talk about thinking outside the box. Digital Turbine's internal research to our customer base shows that, in fact, UA marketers aren't thinking outside the box. Actually, what they plan to do for this year's investment is continue to invest in their traditional channels, despite all the hurdles that confront them. And the problem this creates is a depth, but also a massive opportunity in the marketplace. There is a growing trend here, and what we tend to find in advertising is that media dollars follow eyeballs. And where are those eyeballs? I'm looking right now at some of you. Your eyeballs are on your device, and that gives you a massive opportunity. On the left-hand side here, your right, what you see is US digital spend. A US digital spend across all digital that by 2027 is forecast to reach $400 billion, a massive market indeed. But if you look carefully, it's a market that's not growing exponentially, it's gradual. But there's a clear distribution change in where those ad dollars are being spent. And the clever marketers out there are spending those ad dollars on app stores. Indeed, despite all the opportunities that are out there, app stores do remain one of the most important vehicles for app discovery. But what app stores are being spent on, and what app stores are users increasingly finding? And this is where the conversation becomes a little bit more interesting. So indeed, why does alternative distribution matter? Well, the short answer is alternative distribution matters because it's a massive, massive growth industry. If I told you that Apple and Google combined only represent 49% of all app installs, I think some of you might be quite surprised. Some of you might also be surprised to learn that in 2021, 60% of all Google Play downloads from app developers actually derive from third-party app stores. And it gets even more interesting when you start to look at the revenues generated within third-party app stores. In 2021 alone, $36 billion was spent in alternative third-party Android app stores. In Google, the figure's only $42 billion. Massively high, but look how big that alternative market is. So why are game developers and savvy UA marketers turning to alternative app stores? There's a few reasons. Probably the most important, let's face it, is economic. Game developers can find more favorable revenue share deals outside of the duopoly. But also, if we look inside of Apple App Store or Google Play, we find quite a cluttered, uncurated environment. It's a very poor user experience to find in your games. And also for the user, they're not getting much value from those traditional stores. So of course, this is why we're seeing this growth. But direct distribution isn't actually anything new. In 2011, we saw Amazon first create some competition in the market by launching the Amazon App Store. However, Google continued its massive growth, and they reached a milestone in 2017 with 3 million apps housed inside the Google Play Store. So imagine you're an indie, imagine you're just starting out, imagine you've got a killer game, and you put your title in the Google Play Store, and you don't have much marketing budget behind it, you are competing against 3 million other apps. And that's a bit of an issue. And in actual fact, compounding on top of these issues of just discovery alone is the economics that Google Play and Apple has been charging. And this is why we saw in 2020 Epic take a different path and started taking law action against the incumbents. A trend that started a bit of a snowball that's now grown into a larger and larger snowball effect. Because in 2022, we saw the US Congress introduce the, I have to read it out, Open App Market Act, which is creating lots of legislative tailwinds in favor of direct attribution. And just two things come to mind very, very quickly while I was having breakfast this morning. This came as news to me. 30 states in the US last week, and again, this is news that I picked up this morning, won a class action against Google for its unfair charges to users. And also, going through Congress right now, is Google has been identified with unfair practices when it comes to its search engine operation. So the market is clearly recognizing that everything is loaded against us right now, and we have to go out there and look for these alternatives that exist within the marketplace. This here is a game store, and it's a game store that's designed and powered by Digital Turbine. And this game store sits on Android devices in the US right now. And this game store is live on Verizon, US Cellular, Cricket, and TracFone. 10 million devices as I speak, and it will be on 100 million devices by the end of 2023. A massive market. But carrier app stores are not new. Carrier app stores have existed since the advent of the mobile phone. I'm quite old. I remember, downloading ringtones or Java-based games. Remember those from my Nokia 3210 or whatever it was? But then Google and Apple stole a bit of a march on the market. And now the carriers want this market back. And it's not just the carriers. In 2023, Meta also launched direct distribution to its market base in EMEA. So this isn't just a growing trend, it's a trend that's here right now. The reason why carrier-based app stores are growing in popularity is because of this regulatory environment, it's because first-party data moves, but it's also been enabled by on-device technology. Now, Digital Turbine works very closely with carriers across the globe and also OEMs, placing our Ignite technology on the firmware of our carrier partner devices, but also our OEM partner devices. So people like Samsung, people like Xiaomi, people like ZTE, just to mention a few. But where things get really interesting is what clever things we can do inside our app store called Games Hub. We've got two routes to market. Developers can run with a conventional Google APK, and that's great. And we can serve you in fantastic placements inside our Games Hub within trending or what's hot now or promotional features. But where things get really, really clever is if we start to work with custom APKs, integrate with AppCoin's wallet, for example. And then we can start talking about alternative billing. And that's where more favorable revenue terms can be found. So improving the economics for A, the developer, and B, the most important people not in the room right now, the end user, the people that fuel this fantastic economy, this game economy that we work in. What's also interesting to note is that Google does see Digital Turbine as an ecosystem enabler. And we work in conjunction with one another to start slowly opening up the space. So all of our UX, all of our UI, it's fully Google compliant, and it's a seamless user experience. There are also many other opportunities that are available on device as part of alternative distribution. But I just want to bring it back just slightly. What makes alternative distribution and app discovery so compelling for UA marketers is the fact that people are generally quite app-gnostic right now. Most of the time, when people open up their mobile device, they don't actually have a destination app in mind. They know it's the front and center of their lives, be it for work emails, whether it be socially, whether you're scrolling an Instagram feed or a TikTok feed, for example. But because you can target users, let's just call it at least 50 times a day, but probably more, through app discovery, it gives UA marketers a fantastic opportunity. Here we go. Digital Turbine's technology is on device. It's on 1 billion devices globally. And this is very, very important because it fuels a lot of our UA solutions and a lot of our alternative distribution. Our technology is very clever. It does a couple of primary purposes that I really want to call out that are really sacrosanct to the UA industry, particularly amongst all of these changes that we're seeing. Number one, we drive frictionless installs. What do I mean by that? Well, when we place an app onto a Digital Turbine-powered device, remember there's 1 million of those in the market and growing every day, when a user clicks on that app, it's the full APK file of the app that opens. So for example, if Angry Birds 2, have to mention these guys because obviously we're in Helsinki right now, it's the full APK file that opens up. These go straight into the gaming experience. But also, because our tech is on device, it's completely fraud-free. So we don't suffer from click injection and fraud of that nature. It's a completely closed environment. But in this privacy-centric world, what really sets us apart is the fact that because our technology is on device, we can still pass back third-party unique identifiers and be completely compliant with the data privacy regulatory laws. So it's a very interesting thing. And something to note, and what makes us really significant in the marketplace is how engaged our users are. Like big mass distribution channels out there, Facebook and TikTok, for example. First of all, we built an audience, and we did that through our device footprint, 1 billion devices globally. We then had to engage the audience, and we do that through our content discovery tools on the -1 screen, so things like news, sport, and weather. And then we had to monetize that audience, and we do that through our unique UA solutions. I was going to talk to you now about 2 of our UA solutions. The first one being dynamic installs. Now, this is the key driver of scale and distribution globally for Digital Turbine. Quick fact, every day in the US, 75,000 new Android devices are activated that have our technology on. So that means we've got massive opportunity to find new users who aren't currently playing with your games. Great example would be somebody like King and Candy Crush. So Candy Crush are one of our biggest clients. Despite the ubiquity of Candy Crush has still been a very valued partner of Digital Turbine for the past 5 years, and one of our largest clients, still preloading on newly activated devices every day, not just in the US, but globally. So what does this tell you, UA marketers? It tells you that your existing channels, while great and while effective, are still not hitting as many users and the potential that you could be. There's a massive market out there in alternative distribution that currently isn't being exploited. And then also, we have another product that we call App Select. App Select is an app recommendation tool, and it fires at the first boot of a device. And the reason why this is so important is that users can choose which apps they want to have on their device. So if they want to install Amazon, they can. If they want to install Candy Crush, they can. And what's particularly relevant here, and I'm going to give you a quick story, if you'll allow. So my mum, she's 74. She can't work the TV. But last week, she told me that she was up to level 300 on Candy Crush. And the reason she was up to 300 from Candy Crush is because she recently bought a Samsung device on the O2 network in the UK, and she chose to install Candy Crush. Not because she knew much about it, but because she knew that's what her little boy does. I'm 43 years old, not that little anymore. So as a result, King acquired a new user. And that's an example of a 74-year-old who's never been to the Google Play Store and downloaded an app. By the way, I told her how to put the TV on now. So look, thank you for listening. Just to surmise, alternative distribution is big, but it's going to get bigger. And if you guys don't take note of the other advantages that are out there, you are going to get left behind. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. And if the floor has any questions, I'd invite you to put your hands up and fire away.
Thank you very much for your talk.
Thank you. Thanks for the time, guys.
We've got time. I think we've got time for some questions if you're happy to
definitely
take some. So,
come on, let's warm you up.
We got any?
Some tricky ones.
Must have one. All right. Well, I've got one. So, I think I'm trying to remember the number for the revenue for alternative distribution stores was
36 billion.
Okay, 36. Was a lot of that revenue from China, or does a lot of that actually come from other regions as well?
Didn't include the China figures, largely because we don't have access to that data. But it's a brilliant question because it allows me to actually show just how vast that market is if you start to include the Chinese app stores as well. Remember that I mentioned that figure of 49% of installs are generated from Google and Apple. That figure does include China, and that shows you just how massive that market is. And one of the biggest markets for alternative distribution right now, of course, is China. The most interesting thing about China is that not only the Western companies find it very difficult to infiltrate in China to maximize that market, lots of Chinese developers want access to the West. And this is something that Digital Turbine is helping to facilitate for them.
Yeah, interesting. If we don't have any questions, then yeah, I think that's it. So, but if you do have any other questions you want to ask,
you know where I am.
You can pull him aside just outside here. So yeah, once again, thank you very much. Round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.